one, Errol here. So, the key to good mental health in quarantine is in the food you eat. Right, this article is from Quartz, well, QZ.com. Quartz. This isn't anything new, okay? And if you've been around on Earth long enough, you should know that what you eat has a lot to do or can directly affect your mental health. So, in anything good that you're doing, you have to be consistent in it. Look at that. This looks like candy going into that mouth. I wonder how many has gone in since this first one. I used to be a sweet tooth, but in recent years I've changed that habit for the better. Whatever it is, your tradition, your entire typical routine, it does not exist right now, says clinical psychologist Courtney Warren of the nationwide containment measures aimed at flattening the COVID-19 curve. Based in Las Vegas, she is currently holding all her sessions virtually, meaning online. Since quarantine and social distancing orders have become common around the world, psychologists have highlighted the direct relationship between social isolation and feelings of loneliness, depression, and anxiety, among other things. And by the way, what I'm going to say now are my thoughts on social distancing and not the thoughts of this article or whoever wrote this article. Social distancing might be an ideology that's being used by the global elites to divide us, right? Might be, might not be. It might be, might not be. That's the popular theory out there. That's a popular, and I'm sharing my opinion on this theory. I'm not saying that I believe that theory. Right, so it's very important that to make that distinction. And it's argued that social distancing is equivalent to communism. It's a sort of divide and rule sort of thing. That's what the conspiracy theorists are saying. I have no time for conspiracy theories, but I'm sure many, many other people, covert and overt, would agree with what with that theory that I just mentioned. Continuing with the article, in the US, as in many places, the current social distancing and quarantine measures are likely to provoke such psychological effects in large swaths of the population, tossing the variables of an uncertain end to the pandemic and shelter-in-place mandates with confounding messages from the media. Let me scroll down here. I'm in real time, by the way. I'm in real time. Where was I? Media and elected leaders, and these feelings are only exacerbated. Meaning these feelings are only made worse. That's what exacerbated means. More than a third of Americans say that COVID-19 is impacting their mental health, and nearly 2/3 believe the pandemic has had a serious impact on their day-to-day lives, according to a national poll conducted last month by the American Psychiatric Association. Alright, so they've been doing polls on this thing since the pandemic came out. By the way, sometimes the figures that you're getting with regards to like death rates, percentages, and so on, sometimes these figures are themselves misleading, very misleading. It's important that you focus on the deaths per capita which is basically the deaths per 1,000 people, or even the deaths per 1 million people, and then you'll get a more accurate representation as to what the death rate is per country. So if you look at the deaths per capita for the United States, for example, they are nowhere near the top. They're not even in the top 5. Not even top 6, I believe. As psychologists like Warren point out, it's important to understand how to build defenses against the many stressors that have come with the new reality of the novel coronavirus. For one, mental health experts agree that it's important to pay attention to routines, beginning with a healthy and balanced diet. Pause here. Okay, so I've been saying this for years now, that at least 2 to 3 years, that it's important to have a routine, to have a system. You need a system for anything that you're doing in life, whether it be dieting, whether it's your business, whether it's how you deal with people, whether it's for learning something new. You always need a system. A system doesn't mean that it's something that's hard to learn or technical or tedious. Continuing with the article here. When you're under stress, your body needs to consume more calories just to process the information and function, Warren said over the phone. Because of that, if uncomfortable, we may have a tendency to crave foods that are not particularly good for us. Right? Even I myself have issues with that. Sometimes at nights I'm craving. I have a routine, but sometimes I'm craving other things that I wouldn't normally eat, like not doesn't necessarily have to be sugary stuff, but it could also mean things with more carbohydrates or calories than I should be consuming. Scroll down. The glory of your gut. Look at that, how glorious. That's the glory of a flat gut. By the way, I saw this headline last year about men with big stomachs, quote unquote big belly, being in demand. That might be so though. That might be so. I remember a couple months ago when I was gaining some weight, I went onto the road. I went on the road and I noticed some females were staring at me, but they were staring at me with such awe. And now that my belly is flat again, I'm still getting the stares because I'm a hunk naturally, but I'm getting less than what I was getting. It's amazing. It's amazing. You know, when you go out there, you learn more and more every day as to how people operate. It's fascinating. These things blow my mind. But my belly is flat now. To the point where my abs have started to show a little bit more. And it's easier, much easier for me to get the abs that I'm looking for. Warren's hypothesis describes a phenomenon likely familiar to a lot of us, stress eating. The American Psychological Association reported 38% of Americans attribute unhealthy or excessive eating to stress in a given month. That's without the additional anxiety of a global pandemic or the social isolation of nationwide lockdowns. In human and animal studies, diets high in sugar and simple carbohydrates result in the shrinkage of the brain. Make sure you hear that. that results in the shrinkage of the brain. I didn't know that, which could possibly lead to dementia and other forms of not mental but brain-based illnesses. If there are foods that cause a negative impact on brain health, then it follows that other foods have an analogous positive impact. But to what extent can food influence our mental health? So the article goes on here to mention how it can. Right? I'm not an expert in these things, but if you want to read the article, you can go to Quartz and you can type in food for mental health. Best food for mental health as a keyword, and you'll find this article. That's after you finish watching this, of course. So they've explained it. They've explained that up here. So it says down here, but we're in the midst of a pandemic. We unfortunately don't have 5 years to spare when right now so many people are forced indoors, stressed, and yes, anxious or depressed in large part because of the sudden dissolution of social norms. It goes on here to explain nutritional psychiatry. Look at that. That looks like an apple. An apple a day keeps the doctor away. And after eating this lady here probably doesn't need any more doctors. So they're going on to explain like diet variations with regards to mental wellness. For example, using the Mediterranean diet as an example. It says here the idea behind nutritional psychiatry is to feed the gut microbiome, eat nutrient-dense plants and seafood, and avoid processed foods, simple carbs, and simple sugars. I probably need to work on that a little bit more, avoiding simple. Well, I drink a smoothie like once per day, and I'll put like 2 spoons of sugar in it, but it will mostly have water. I try to thin it out to the point where I enjoy it the most. And it's not sweet, but there are probably simple carbs in there maybe that I need to reduce just a little bit more. Maybe I need to, maybe I don't. Okay, so these types of foods, they say increase inflammation, the possibility of inflammation, and it's correlated with an increased risk of depression. My diet is fairly good though. I practice intermittent fasting. I've done up to 24 hours in a single day, and I've done the 2-day fast. I'm gonna try the 3-day fast as soon as I can. Fast on just fruits and water. So they're explaining the role of the gut microbiome here and what it does, what else is involved, and so on there. I don't want to make it seem as if I'm giving medical advice. I came across this article and I was fascinated by what it was actually saying. The gut microbiome feedback loop. These are some interesting scientific stuff. If you want to check out the article further, you can. Disclaimer, I'm not working for this company. I'm simply a journalist in my own right. It's quite a lengthy article though. Don't forget to subscribe. Click on the notification icon to stay in touch as soon as content is uploaded. I will see you in the next video.